This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on 22 August 2020. This week, we have the FBI and CISA issuing a joint malware analysis report regarding malware that they say the North Koreans have been using to attack U.S. defense contractors. The blind scan Trojan is capable of harvesting information about infected systems, reading, writing, and executing files, and deleting its tracks. The hackers have been targeting contractors with fake postings from other defense contract entities to lure them into clicking through and installing the implant onto their systems. The activity appears to be similar to a North Korean government campaign that has recently targeted the Israeli defense sector. The activity identified by the Israeli Ministry of Defense last week. The campaign also uses fake job offers and impersonates CEOs on LinkedIn to target victims, according to the Israeli government. A bit further south, the Australian government is seeking power to respond to active cyber attacks against critical infrastructure. Australia's Cybersecurity Strategy 2020 will require operators of critical infrastructure to report cyber incidents to ASD, or the Australian Signals Directorate, in real time and potentially allow ASD into their networks to monitor and defend the networks against cyber attacks. Directors will be held largely responsible for ensuring a certain level of cybersecurity. The plan expands the critical infrastructure designation to include universities, the financial sector, the health sector, and food and grocery sector. The government has released a consultation paper regarding these issues. The government's plan is mostly to define more industries as critical infrastructure and make them, quote, legally obligated to manage risks that may impact business continuity and Australia's economy, security, and sovereignty, unquote. The government proposes to develop baselines that critical industries can use to help them meet their obligations. Just to the north of us, hackers launched credential stuffing attacks against the Canadian government. Hackers used credential stuffing to access thousands of accounts used by Canadian citizens to access various government services and websites. The attack targeted the Canadian Revenue Agency, or CRA, and the GC Key portal that provides single sign-on to multiple Canadian government service websites. The hackers used the compromised accounts to access government services and apply for COVID-19 relief payments. The Canadian Revenue Agency has temporarily disabled the site. Approximately 5,500 accounts were compromised on the CRA site. Over on the GC Key, about 9,000 accounts were compromised. GC Key is used by 30 federal departments and 12 million Canadians, providing online information and government services like employment, immigration, and more. In a press release, the Canadian government said, quote, access to all affected accounts has been disabled to maintain the safety and security of taxpayers' information, and the agency is contacting all affected individuals, they're talking about the CRA, and will work with them to restore access to their My account. Back here in the States, the University of Utah paid $457,000 to ransomware operators. This happened on July 19th. Computer servers at the University of Utah's College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, or CSPS, experienced a criminal ransomware attack, which rendered its servers temporarily inaccessible. The university revealed that it paid ransomware operators more than $450,000 to prevent stolen data from being leaked. The university was able to restore computer systems from backups, and it determined that approximately 0.02% of the data on the servers was affected by the attack. This data included employee and student information. The college is restoring locally managed IT services and systems from backup copies. No central IT system were compromised by the attack on the college. Next on our list, Google fixed a spoofing email vulnerability. Google has fixed a security vulnerability affecting Gmail and G Suite that could have been exploited to spoof email messages and make them appear to be compliant with Sender Policy Framework, or SPF, and domain-based message authentication reporting and conformance, or DMARC. Google was notified about the issue on the 3rd of April this year. Despite having 137 days to fix the reported issue, Google initially delayed patches past the disclosure deadline, planning to fix the bug somewhere in September. In hindsight, yesterday's patching snafu is a common occurrence in the tech industry, where many companies and their security teams don't always fully understand the severity and repercussions of not patching a vulnerability until details about the bug have become public. According to ZDNet, if the bug had been left unpatched, there is no doubt that the exploit would have most likely been widely adopted by email spam groups, BEC scammers, and malware distributors. Hackers used the design platform Canva to create phishing emails. Hackers hijacked the Australian design platform Canva and used it to create graphics to lend legitimacy to phishing campaigns. More than 4,200 phishing emails have been generated through Canva since this past February. Hackers hijacked the graphic design site owned by the fast-growing company whose valuation recently grew from $3.2 billion to $6 billion, and used it to leverage other brands like SharePoint, Microsoft Office, and DocuSign in their messages, according to a blog post by Known Before. The use of Canva by malicious actors for credential phishing should serve as yet another reminder that organizations need to train their users to spot and handle malicious emails correctly. Even though Canva is removing the files, they are typically live for hours afterwards, giving unwitting users plenty of time to click through and wind up being phished for credentials. The food and beverage reservation system at the Ritz London has been breached. London's Ritz Hotel is investigating a breach of its food and beverage reservation system that compromised personal information belonging to some of its clients. Some clients have reported being contacted by phone by people claiming to be Ritz Hotel staff seeking to confirm payment card details. The calls were spoofed to appear to be coming from the hotel. While the hotel said that the security incident did not include any credit card details or payment information, the leaked data may have been used in social engineering scams designed to steal more valuable financial information straight from the source. It is not known how widespread this scam is or how many people have been targeted. The Ritz Hotel has emailed customers emphasizing the staff will not call them after a reservation is made. Carnival Cruise Lines has been targeted in a ransomware attack. Carnival Corporation, the world's largest cruise line operator, was a victim of a ransomware attack. The August 15th incident was disclosed to the SEC in an 8K form filing. In the filing, Carnival writes, quote, "We detected a ransomware attack that accessed and encrypted a portion of one brand's information technology systems. The unauthorized access also included the download of certain parts of our data files," unquote. The cruise line operator said it already started an investigation into the breach, notified law enforcement, and engaged with legal counsel and incident response professionals. Based on the preliminary assessment of the incident, Carnival said it expects that the attackers gained access to some guests' and employees' personal data. Despite some fallout, including potential lawsuits, the company said it does not expect the incident to have a material impact on its business operations or financial results. I guess that's just the cost of doing business. Carnival did not disclose any details about the incident itself, such as the name of the ransomware utilized to encrypt its network or which of its many internal networks and brands were impacted. The beverage company Brown-Forman has suffered a cyber attack. Kentucky-based alcohol beverage company Brown-Forman was a victim of an apparent ransomware attack. In communications with the media, Brown-Forman wrote, quote, "Unfortunately, we believe some information, including employee data, was impacted. We are working closely with law enforcement as well as world-class third-party data security experts to mitigate and resolve this situation as soon as possible." Unquote. The company is not actively negotiating with attackers. The company also told the media that they managed to prevent their systems from being encrypted. REvil, ransomware operators, announced on Friday that they were the ones who compromised Brown-Forman's computer network and spent more than a month examining user services, cloud data storage, and general structure. REvil looks to be leaking and auctioning the files in an attempt to squeeze Brown-Forman into paying a ransom. In exchange, the actor has promised to delete all copies of the data and not use it in the future. I trust him, don't you? Although the final step in the ransomware attack is to encrypt data, REvil did not get to deploy this routine. Brown-Forman detected the attack and stopped it before the data was locked. REvil claims that the details about the company's corporate clients and other investor information is in the data they have. In a follow-up to a story we covered previously, it looks like Canon USA did not pay up, as it was previously believed, to the Maze ransomware attack. Files allegedly stolen from Canon have been posted online by the ransomware operators. In the world of IoT, it looks like smart locks may be harbingers of larger problems. Two recent reports on smart lock vulnerabilities show that IoT vendors have a bigger job to do in ensuring their products are safely deployed and configured. The reports point to that it has less to do with smart locks themselves and more to do with the ways that these devices and IoT devices at large are developed and deployed, as well as with a lack of best practices and due diligence by both vendors and consumers with implementation. Security researchers are advising that consumers get their products from companies that have a visible vulnerability and disclosure program. The reports go on to suggest regulations should be in place if you're making certain types of devices, and you need to have various forms of contact. The need to secure IoT is more critical today as people work and learn from home. At a minimum, it is recommended that end users change default passwords on IoT devices and, if possible, segment home networks to separate corporate assets from personal IoT. Organizations can take steps to mitigate the risks of IoT devices in remote work environments by having proper security software, operating system patches, and policies set up, as well as access methods like multi-factor authentication, network access controls, and certificate-based access. And finally, the former Uber CSO has been charged in a hack cover-up. The charges stem from a 2016 attack in which 57 million records were breached. The former CSO has been charged with obstruction of justice and misprison of a felony following a 2016 hack of the ride-share company. If convicted, the CSO faces a maximum of 5 years in prison for obstruction and a maximum of 3 years in prison for the misprison charge. In 2016, Uber suffered a breach of personally identifiable information for 57 million Uber drivers and riders. According to the complaint, the CSO took deliberate steps to conceal, deflect, and mislead the Federal Trade Commission about the breach. The CSO had given testimony to the FTC regarding the 2014 breach approximately 10 days before learning of the 2016 breach. Rather than report the second breach, The CSO led an effort that took many steps to avoid disclosure. The breach was publicly disclosed and the CSO fired after a change in CEO in 2017. Uber ultimately paid nearly $150 million in fines for the mishandling of the incident. A trial date for the CSO has not yet been set. That's all for the news this week. I'm your professor of cyber risk. We'll talk again soon.